This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hi everyone, welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. I am Jason Morgan, Content Director of Fleet Equipment, and clearly we're doing something a little different today. I have a special guest. Jacques, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Jacques de la Rochelière, CEO, Chairman, Co-founder of Isaac Instruments.
I appreciate that because what everybody didn't see was me tripping over the last name for the last 20 minutes. So I appreciate it. It is wonderful to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. It's not too far from Cleveland, so it was a pleasure to do the drive.
That's right. You got a satellite office here and big provider telematics and technology in Canada. So looking to make even bigger waves here in the U.S. Glad you could stop by and take the time.
Happy to.
So let's kind of dig into that because we are all hearing about the ELD certification process in Canada. A little more heavy lifting probably than on the U.S. And even in the U.S. it was a big deal to make that transition, right? Yes. And you're Isaac is certified, so congratulations on that because that's a big step. Can you kind of take me through where are you at in that process in Canada rolling that out, and maybe what lessons from the U.S. market and the rollout of ELDs here are you able to bring over to fleets that are maybe crossing the border or even just working in the Canada there?
Yes. Well, big lessons. We have to know that Canadian fleets go across the border a lot, so it's not new because it's been almost more than 2 years, as you know, in the U.S. So most fleets have had to go through the process because they drive in the U.S.
Yep.
So it's not that much of a lessons learned for the change. Most of them did the change already.
Right.
So and certification, as you pointed out, was the difference. So very similar rules and all of that. In the U.S., it was a self-registration, so you have to just put your name on the table and make sure that you can send the hours of service to the FMCSA. In Canada, that's different. We needed to go through a very tedious and scrupulous process with authorities, a third party that was certified to do that. There's now 3 third parties to do the certification, now 22 to this day systems certified. Of course, we were part of the first wave all the way back in mid-year last year. Still seeing some names getting added, so that's good. I think that we have roughly 90% of coverage because the top 7 providers cover roughly 100% of the market. There's one that's not there yet, so I think we're going to be covered in due time.
Nice.
In terms of coverage for the industry, so that's a great thing.
Nice, yeah, and I know that they're doing kind of a progressive, progressive enforcement as they roll out? Because one of the things we even saw on the U.S. side is like, oh, it's great, you can flip the switch. Everyone, even we're self-registered, so there was even less hurdles to jump through. But then the communication between the driver and law enforcement and being able to provide logs out there to law enforcement out on the road, it's more of a people management thing.
And law enforcement being ready
to
basically enforce it, have on the side of the road, have the people ready to do that. And also large providers were not ready, so they had to expand a little bit, a couple of months. So this shouldn't be the case in Canada. And there's different provinces, and they're not going to be ready at the same time also. So this is all the way under discussion. It was supposed to be June 12, 2021. It was postponed to June 12, 2022. But some provinces have said that they're going to be applying it in 2022. Some others say we might not be ready. So the big one is Ontario. It's half the market in Canada, basically. And if you have a trucking fleet and you don't go across Ontario in Canada, you're not going anywhere, basically. So it's going to be pretty much everyone who needs to be compliant by June 12, 2022.
Right. I mean, and then you have the big job of just bringing people on board, making sure they're comfortable with the system, knowing how they can access logs, knowing how they can share that information with law enforcement when they're on the side of the road, and just stressing to people like, hey, just maybe be a little patient with everybody.
You should be there already. I mean, it takes a couple of months to get everybody ready, so this is the time, right? There's 3 months to go.
Right, for sure. So that was a big talking point at the user conference you had here this past fall. I believe it was about the November timeframe. One of the other things that you talked a lot about was automation, and that's something we hear a lot about how buzzy in the industry, right? But you equated it to maybe how it could help the labor shortage. And labor shortage, it's getting a lot of headlines. It's nothing new in trucking, though. Everybody's like, welcome to the party, rest of the world. We've had like a shortage of everybody.
Other industries.
Right.
Yes.
Can you kind of walk me through on kind of a grassroots level, what does automation mean in terms of helping reduce the labor needs, and how can it help fleets right now?
Our perspective is, we are very driver-centric technology in the cab. But everything you do or don't do in the cab is going to have effects on people working on the back end, basically, back at the office. So it's important that we automate as much as possible. We have the information ready when he or she needs it as a driver, right? If he or she needs to find the information, they're going to just push the work to somebody else. So there's two areas here. There's the keep the wheels turning, something we are very focused with our innovations and our product development is everybody's happy when the wheels are turning. We need to keep the trucks moving. So if they stop, get them on the road as soon as possible. So it's all about automation. So that's where the driver is happy, but also the shipper, the consignee, everybody, the carrier. So automation is about having the answers at the right time, not chasing the answers. Because if you need to chase the answers, the drivers are not doing their job. They're not going. They're not moving, but also they're pushing some of the workload to somebody else at the back office that needs to find the answer. So all of a sudden you need more people at the back office. And as much as you can't find a cook anymore, you can't find a waiter anymore, well, you can't find a dispatch anymore. So this has got to be automated as much as possible. As much as we talk about autonomous driving, we should talk about autonomous dispatching and autonomous planning and autonomous maintenance and everything else.
Right. Well, and because what you're alluding to there too is the information that a specific job function needs at that fleet is different than the one that is sitting right next to him, right? The driver is going to need different information than the technician's going to need in the bay. And it's all available. And this is what I'm finding more and more is that, we talked about a little bit about it even before the camera's rolling, just about how much technology is people using the systems and getting that information to them and communicating. And I mean, I don't even envy how the situation you're in to try to deliver all that.
And there's many systems to connect to. So we gather a lot of data. It's our trademark. We have a multiple of the other systems. And because we have so much information, we have the responsibility to push it. We don't want people to pull on the information to get it when they need it. We need to push it at the right time and the right individuals in the company. So it's about this dispatching this information through APIs that are flexible enough with the team that we have to support the integrations with all kinds of systems. Accounting, maintenance, dispatch. There's so many systems that need the information. We're the source. We're at the very source of the information. It's our responsibility to dispatch the information in a timely manner to those who might need it. So that's the way we do it.
So if I'm a fleet and I want to do this with I've got a responsibility to tell you where I need that to go, right? I mean, are there any tips or guidance? Like, what questions do you need from me to come to you and say, hey, can you get X to Y or Z? What do you need from me?
Well, been there, done that. We have more than 500 fleets, and I'm not talking own operators, fleets of trucks operating our system. So we've been through this process quite a few times. So the checklist and the questions that you need to answer before we get going to manage change, because there's going to be change, but also to make sure that we leverage this data, this gold mine of data, as much as possible. And it feeds automation. So you need to automate and get the answers. All of the workflow that we have developed around the driver's work is getting the answer at the right time. They barely see their logbook. They don't need to see their logbook because they're doing things that we have aligned and in fact our clients have aligned for them to do in a timely manner. So it populates the logbook altogether. So all of this concern of logbook inspection and whatnot, it's all in one centered, but still leverages different apps through the Isaac open platform. So we want to keep feeding this beast and have as much flexibility as possible, but make it very streamlined and automated for the driver so he or she does not chase the information.
Right.
And it's a lot of effort.
Right.
But it turns into less of a labor shortage.
Right.
Because it's all over the place. It's in the shop for maintenance. If you push the right information at the right time, well, when the truck shows into the yard, you'll know what you need to do on it for it to keep the wheels turning as soon as possible.
Right, and I think the key that I'm really gravitating toward to what you just said is you will know what to do with it. Because I mean, the technology as we're seeing will do amazing things. You can connect to a lot of things, but the people, like, we still got to do stuff, right? You mentioned change management.
Exactly.
Yeah, people got to change, and that is, we see a lot of times right now, and a lot of the talk conversation on the technology on the truck side is. Yeah, I mean, we got to get the people to understand that this is important. This is what you do when you see the information. And that just comes from that's just back to basics, people management, right?
Comes down to people all the time.
So one of the other people component in terms of management and technology that always interests me, and I know you've spoken to it before too, is the cybersecurity. During a time where we're looking at the 3G sunsets here on the network, there also seems to be just kind of a natural movement of fleets kind of looking at other services, other solutions out there in the market. What is the threat of cybersecurity, and how do you work on your end on the software and technology end to keep users safe?
And I like that you introduced it with people. So it starts and it ends with people, basically. The way you wonder. So for one thing, the pandemic has had a multiplying factor on cybersecurity threats. I mean, it has exploded over the last 2 years. Like, somebody has leisure time to play around with computers. I don't know, but really, we've seen the number of attacks, the intensity of the attacks has been significantly increased. And as you pointed out, it's about the people. The users are the entry point of attacks. So it's difficult to just have systems to protect your company. Mm-hmm. You need the people to be trained and organized. And otherwise the systems it's always a compromise. It's not all black and white, or it's like when you configure a truck, it's not all about the power or the weight. It's not, you need to have the right compromise. So here, if you have the systems that will protect, well, your users won't be able to do anything because they won't be using the technology because you'll be protecting the technology against the users, because the users are the entry point. Right. At the other end, if you give them all the leisure, because let's call it bring your own device or whatever phone you're using, well, now your driver, he or she, is the IT specialist of your company. So the least computer savvy of them will be your IT specialist in cybersecurity. So, like a chain is not stronger than its weakest link. Here we are. So you got to have the cursor placed at the right place, and you can have some cheats or some workarounds that we have tried to leverage as much as possible to give the possibility to have as much flexibility as possible, but still have a specialist at the right time to take some of the decisions, not leave the decisions to the users. So we've worked a great deal on the remote assistance, so it's built into the system. So at any point in time, an IT specialist from the trucking company or a dispatcher or whoever has the authority can basically use the tablet in front of the driver from a remote location, from anywhere, and take some of the decisions. Okay. So you have the flexibility, but you put it in the hands of somebody that's a specialist. Sure. So you don't click on the wrong links, basically, right?
No, I know, that is the biggest battle.
We all got email, that email that will make us a millionaire overnight because,
I keep clicking all those. It hasn't worked yet. I don't know what I'm doing wrong,
Good
but
luck
I'll just keep clicking.
Give them your driver's license number and your bank account, right?
Yeah, mother's maiden name. I've sent all that over.
Call them now. So you gotta find the right balance, but it's got to be built in the product, so you have a workaround. But at the end of the day, it's all about having the people protecting the system. The systems will do some of the work, but you still have the weakest link is still the people.
Right,
so
right.
you gotta be mindful of that in building the product. And it's not sexy. It doesn't sell telematics to have these systems built in. This is done behind the scenes, but it provides a great deal of benefits to the companies who will never know because they never got attacked. So, and I like Joe Russo's our IT VP. Says it's like if you compare it to hockey or any soccer, any game with a goalie, well, the goalie has got to win with a bleach all the time. You cannot give a single goal because you're being attacked all the time. They can take as many shots as they want, and you got to stop them all. Their success is one shot that runs in and you failed. So it's a lot, and trucking is a target. It's a juicy target for their cyber attacks.
Right. Well, and going back to the people angle, and maybe what might sell telematics devices in your case here is knowing that as a fleet, I need a partner that is on top of this, right? That can, because it's always an evolving process. It's not like I just buy something one day and I'm good for the rest of my life and I don't have to worry about it, right? I need a partner that I can reach out to. And as you all are making a really big push into the U.S. market, just developing those relationships with fleets are key and working with them day in and day out.
And how close you're working with your provider. So if there's resellers and a whole distribution chain that between, and you have your information that goes from end to end to end before it gets to the platform, is a different story already. So how close you're working with your vendor, and is this vendor working with trucking companies or all kinds of different companies with all kinds of different challenge, therefore divides its attention towards the different types of cybersecurity threats you've got. So there's many things. And what's the process in their releases? So if the release has got all of the checkpoints that it needs to have, it's not every day, it's on a regular basis. So you get innovations, but the trade-off of innovation is also cybersecurity. So it's all about flexibility, velocity, and security. It's a balance, and you can feel that. And I can talk for experience, but we have systems providers. We have ERP and all kinds of systems. So, and we choose carefully because we know how it works, being technology suppliers, where you have to have a process that's well established on the releases, on their checkpoints on doing that, and on the flexibility they provide versus the checkpoints and the controls that you need to have to cover yourselves with systems as much as possible against your own people's weakness. That's what it is.
I know, for sure.
We're all weak at some point.
Nope, I hear you. Okay, so one more thing for you. So what's on the horizon for Isaac? What should we be keeping an eye out for this year, maybe, as in the U.S. market?
Well, there's a serious case for change in the industry, as you've probably read some press release or published some press release in your case.
We're probably writing the story for sure.
We got great U.S. fleets coming on board, joining. We have a major share in Canada, 28% of total market already. So we look forward to contributing to more of these fleets and helping, keeping the wheels turning, automating, and surviving or thriving maybe through that labor shortage that affects drivers, but everybody now and the companies that are carrying the goods.
Nope, for sure. And I appreciate you taking the time to come visit our studio here. Hopefully we'll get you in the studio again later this year.
Anytime, my pleasure. I'm just next door. happy to do the short drive and come and see you guys.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks
and thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.